I'm back.
And then we got Diaz again, coming for his second time this year.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
Yep, and I'm your host as usual. Let's just start right off the bat with the controversy, the latest controversy. So for people who don't know, but I'm sure most people are aware, there was a poach that happened on Diaz's practice squad. Jalen Samuels getting poached on Tuesday near noon, and then that causing difficulties for Diaz to pick up someone to the practice squad today. Did you have any remaining thoughts on that, Diaz?
I'm glad that we got to find out what happened.
Okay.
I think there's a 99% chance that it all works out and I can get my guy next week. I'm hoping that he does not break out this weekend and
Sure.
go for $25 on waivers next week, but I could have done more to secure myself, so myself.
No, I mean it's just unfortunate all around. Like you were kind of in a tough spot, but also the commissioner is, these are new rules and a new um, platform and stuff. So I mean, it has to be like really hard for the commissioner to know himself like exactly how these things will play out. Like you can try to predict how these rules will play out, but like until you actually encounter some difficulties, sometimes you just don't know. So yeah, it sucks, but I think he'll address it and like have a clearer plan on how to like change the rules so that like this kind of stuff doesn't happen. But it is unfortunate for Diaz that he was affected by you know this situation this week.
Yeah, it's all very true. I mean, yeah, there's not much for me to add, but hopefully it doesn't cause you to tilt next week, Diaz. Hopefully you'll get your
If
guy.
I get burned, I'll be tilting for years.
Oh my god. I believe you. All right, well, let's look back on to week 4, all the happenings there. So we did the who you got off air, offline,
Yep.
but it was done with an attempt to be unbiased from what happened on Thursday. But
Mhm.
I'm sure a little bit of it crept in. Either way, it looked like Dustin did a little bit better. It's this week we seem to
Finally.
we seem to alternate this pattern. But anyways,
Yeah.
let's start with great kills, who Dustin had at -12, and I took great kills, and that was the result. Great kills coming out 150, 1.6 against Oakland, I believe. Yep, Oakland 113.79. So just to recap a little, Phillip Rivers, Baker Mayfield, those were the two headliners. They came out pretty strong. And then Cooper Kupp with 21 fantasy points. Also, as Diaz mentioned in his Power Rankings article, Great Kills chose to sit his defense. So the score is a little bit deceiving here, at least in terms of the final points. As for Oakland, Matt Ryan, Marcus Mariota, those two QBs also showed up, but then not much coming from the rest of his team. David Johnson with 17 fantasy points, and then really Will Disley with 13, and then Stephon Diggs with 11. But that's pretty much it. Um, yeah, Dustin, how are you feeling with your win? About your win?
I mean, I like, if we played our defense, the score would have been like something like pretty decent. So
Yeah,
this was like one of the first weeks that I felt like pretty okay about my team. Like Todd Gurley actually showed up. Baker Mayfield actually showed that he can still throw,
Oh, I missed Todd Gurley. Yeah,
touchdowns and stuff. Yeah,
yeah.
and I mean Cooper Cup is great. So yeah, this was definitely like not everyone performed as well as I want, but there was just enough to like reassure myself it is at least like an average team, if not because I mean, an 0-2 start is always a little bit scary. Like you're doubting, like, all right, like I'm pretty sure I have a better team than this, but like like at 0-2, you have to question it. But like last 2 weeks have been a lot better, so you know,
Sure.
definitely a little bit more breathing room to work with.
Yeah, yeah. Diaz?
The questions here. This season, the question has been what is up with the Rams offense? And the week that they score 40, Dustin's team plays very well because he has a lot of stock in Todd Gurley and Cooper Kupp. If the Rams can continue to look more similar to the way they looked last year or the first 10
Boo.
games of last year,
Not tonight, please.
yeah, I think that is a big turn. Todd Gurley being a top 5 running back,
Right,
like he
right.
scored in this week with 2 touchdowns, like he scores 2 touchdowns, like he scored 2 touchdowns every week last year. changes the complexion of this team.
Yeah, it's very true. And the biggest thing I was encouraged by was Todd Gurley finally got some receptions again. Like he didn't get a lot of carries, but like first 3 weeks he had like something like 3 targets on the whole year. And like last year, part of what made him so good is his involvement in the passing game. So like whether they're down and chasing or up big, like he was so consistent week to week. And I'm not expecting that type of exact like performance, but just that kind of usage is I think really promising for me going forward.
Yeah, 11 targets, and actually it's a lot of targets for all of your running backs, right? When I think about the great kills Sky Elephants in 2019, it's all about the running backs with Zeke, and I'm not even sure if Zeke has completely shown up yet. I'm not aware. He's got a 20-pointer, but still he could go off for 30 at any game. And Devonta Freeman getting 9 targets, 8 receptions for 72 yards. It's looking encouraging for your three star running backs. With that, let's move to Oakland. What was your impression facing them, Dustin?
I mean, I think the biggest thing you have to be focused on if you're Oakland is how Juju Smith-Schuster performed. They just acquired him, and just if you watch that game, like Mason Rudolph completed a lot of passes, but not really too many, downfield. And Juju Smith-Schuster is getting a lot of the attention, and it doesn't seem like Mason Rudolph really, or the Steelers really want to force it to him too much. So if Juju is this kind of asset going forward, that might be really bad for Oakland's prospects going forward.
Yep. How about you, Diaz?
Yeah, I watched that game very closely because I'm the Mason Rudolph owner. I think it's fair to say that the Steelers' offense has a chance to evolve this season. They took what was given to them in Rudolph's first full or second, maybe full game as a starter. But what we've seen in the press is that the Juju Smith-Schuster is encouraged and by Rudolph, and I think that as time goes on, obviously I happen to be someone who has a positive outlook for Mason Rudolph. He will be able to utilize Juju Smith-Schuster, who's almost certainly his best offensive weapon.
Yeah. That's what you have to hope. I'm just saying, that's probably the biggest thing that you leave this matchup worrying about. If I'm him, he does have to improve his team around the edges a little bit, but Juju Smith-Schuster is a superstar level player, so he's got to show up if Duo wants to go anywhere this year.
Yep. It's really a story of his receivers. I mean, Diggs is also having his issues in Minnesota's offense. And then we talked about the Rams, but Cooks also isn't, having his ceiling games quite yet. But it looks like his QBs, they scored pretty well. Mariota taking advantage of the really weak Falcons secondary. Oh my God, that AJ Brown touchdown was embarrassing. The first one, I mean. And then Matt Ryan was also involved in that game, and I guess he 53 attempts. Jeez.
Yeah, so, I mean, Atlanta always gets down in the first half, and just Matt Ryan is throwing all game.
Right. And really, this is where Duho spent a lot of his resources, right? He put a lot of resources in the wide receiver position, yet it's not giving the output that he's really looking to get.
He does get Golden Tate back, and Michael Gallup should get back, but he really does need to move one of them for help at a different position, I think.
Or even in the wide receiver. I don't know.
I mean, or consolidate into
exactly.
one better one, because he has a lot of options, but the true wide receiver one doesn't look like it's there right now, because Cooks is kind of just doing okay. Diggs is having his problems, and right now Juju is a little bit questionable. So either consolidate or trade for an upgrade at running back or something. But I do think they need to make a move with the balance of their roster.
Sure. Yeah. Let's move on to New England -8 was the Dustin line, and I took Virginia, which was wrong. New England took it with 184.02 points versus 133.3. So just going to this matchup, I remember tilting because of the Green Bay Packers negative point
Yeah, no,
scoring
it's really
on
hard to overcome a
Thursday. Yeah, that
negative
was
10 from your defense because like
disgusting.
you're expecting like 8 or 9 points out of them, and you start right off with a -10. It feels like you're 19 in the hole.
I was, and on top of that, Alshon Jeffrey facing them and getting the touchdown. But in any case, Chris Godwin out of nowhere. Well, he had that injury designation, but he scored 35 fantasy points. And then Christian McCaffrey with 28, and Lamar Jackson with 32. Virginia had Matt Stafford against Kansas City defense. That was very productive for 30 fantasy points. Wayne Gallman, his latest waiver wire acquisition with 24.55. And then really not much else for Virginia. Yeah, what did you think, Diaz? Let's start with my team.
Yeah, it's hard to bring anything up that I didn't already bring up in the in the power rankings, but Tyler Lockett is somebody that stands out to me. There were concerns earlier, in the preseason about his ability to gain target share. And the argument was there's nobody else there to throw to.
Yes.
And even with
Baldwin
even
retired?
with more of a passing attack and Russell Wilson having a very strong season starting out, I feel like Tyler Lockett has really been the main disappointment on this New England team. And I wonder if truly he does have a ceiling just based on the type of player that he is in that offense, that he'll never be somebody who averages 8 targets a game, or if he's not able to get those long touchdowns, that he is not someone who can kind of adapt to that.
Yeah, it's been up and down, really. I mean, he does have a 27.7 fantasy point output with 11 catches, 154 yards, and a touchdown. So that was a really good big day. But yeah, you might be thinking about that first week where he had 1 catch for 44 and a touchdown, which still wasn't a disappointment, I think. Still double digits, but 1 catch, not that many targets. Yeah, there are certainly some questions there. Dustin?
Yeah, I think this is the most well-rounded team in the league right now. I don't know if it's the best, but it seems to have the least holes right now because Tyler Boyd did poorly, but like Godwin, Michael Thomas, great depth at wide receiver down the line, and then Kerryon Johnson, Christian McCaffrey, Josh Jacobs. That's a great running back group with an interesting like backup there too. And like your QBs are really performing. Like this was Dalton's worst week so far, but like he's a capable replacement for like bye weeks just because like Cincinnati's going to be down so much of the year, and your 2 starters are obviously really good. There are teams with like more attractive like stars, but like your team is very balanced, and I think that's why this is a very well built team that's going to go pretty far this year.
Wow, so much showering of praise before you're facing me this week.
I try to make sure your guys go a little easy on me.
Yeah, I mean, I like my team. It's I think I made some good moves in getting Mark Andrews. That really helped in a couple.
The tight end would have been the biggest question.
Yes, yeah.
And you addressed it pretty early with an aggressive Mark Andrews pickup, and that's looking like at least like it's gonna. It's a every week start, as long as he's not injured. So, yeah, I mean, like, it's hard to say what your biggest weakness on your team really is. I maybe like 4th or 5th receiver, but like you have enough guys with either talent or, target share where that's not even a problem, I don't think. So,
yeah, it's not here,
this
but
is a scary team.
Oh, yeah, go ahead, finish. Sorry.
No, I'm just saying this is a very scary team. So.
My bench, I'm also really for now I'm happy about with DJ Shark and Ronald Jones, who I think could fill in very nicely as we go into the bye weeks. But yeah, let's move to Virginia. I think a couple of things here is just that Josh Allen got hurt and he was facing that really good Patriots defense, so that limited his output. And then Julio, he's gonna have days like this where he scores in the single digits, but then he's also gonna have a 50-point day sometimes. So it's that's what you get when you draft Julio Jones in the beginning. What did you think, Dustin?
So they were 3-0 coming into this
Oh yeah, that's right.
week. Yeah, so it was a pretty big matchup trying to see like, who's for real and who's
Right.
not. And I don't think Virginia is as weak as their performance showed. Like they suffered a couple injuries like mid-game, right? Like I think Vernon Davis left with an injury, Marlon Mack left with an injury, and Josh Allen obviously left with an injury.
Right.
So yeah, they're not, as outclassed as they looked, but there are problems for sure here. Like just the fact that, I mean, they were really relying on Dalvin Cook coming into this week, and Dalvin Cook has like a human week this week, and
Right.
the rest of the team doesn't support him to like make up for that. So, I mean, if Dalvin Cook isn't going to perform like he did in the first 3 weeks going all the way, like is this team strong enough all around to, be really a playoff team? I mean, it's good that they're 3-1. That always gives them some like leeway to like make moves and like improve their team without having to worry too much, but I don't think that this team is as strong as their record looked early on.
Okay. Yeah. Diaz.
Yeah, 2 of Dalvin Cook's first 4 games or 3 games were at home against Atlanta and Oakland.
Yeah.
As they're playing the Giants this week, so he should bounce back pretty nicely.
Also, Green Bay too. Green Bay, the red carpet for running backs.
Yeah, I was hoping to build a narrative around, sort of a decline for Cook, but he does have good matchups upcoming. The Giants this week, Washington in Week 8, Kansas City in Week 9, and he's already gone through Chicago, and he doesn't have to face Minnesota because he plays for Minnesota. So it's difficult with players who are in the NFC North because that whole division is strong. But
yeah, Lions.
I think that Hua may actually be able to rely on Dalvin Cook to be that money player, that 20-point player,
For sure.
more often than not, which is really rare.
Yeah.
And so I agree with Dustin that this week I do have questions about the receiver depth. Not that there is a lack of depth, but that the players in that depth have low floors, like we saw with and Brown, who are both kind of deep threats. There will be these games where they catch 1 or 2, or I guess Marquise Brown caught 4 receptions, but it was 22 yards. So much for being a deep threat, I guess. But they will have these games, and we've seen that a lot from Hua, besides in the tight end spot, where it's like you're getting these zeros or these under 5s from certain positions.
Right.
Yeah, he got George Kittle to address that, but now he does have a little bit less upside at wide receiver. Like, Julio Jones is really the only like superstar, and you have a bunch. Alshon is pretty steady, but like Diaz said, like Marquise Brown, DK Metcalf, they're just too young to like rely on week in and week out unless they like really establish themselves. So yeah, he's gonna have some tough decisions like week to week, and I could see that being a problem for them.
Yeah, and lastly is the QB position. He's got a lot, and coming out of the draft, it was one of his weaknesses. That at least that was visible at that point. But I think it'll remain somewhat of a question mark. Maybe he plays the matchups and stuff, but we'll see how that goes moving forward, right? Because Matthew Stafford, he doesn't have that much draft capital in him, and he's not expected to be amazing, but he definitely could put up the 30 points that he did this past week.
Stafford is the guy who, because I talked to Hua about his QBs this week, Stafford is the guy whose schedule I would dread.
Oh, right.
That NFC North schedule. He has played no NFC North teams yet.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, and all the NFC North teams have pretty good like secondaries or like defenses overall. So yeah, that's
Green Bay's most recent performance notwithstanding.
Yeah, well, I mean, their
Run
secondary
game.
was secondary was still good. So like Stafford, they might just rely on carry on and stuff. So
yep,
the Joho plan.
Yeah.
Right. All right. Let's move on with that to Flushing, where he hosted Harlem. Flushing, I set the line as Flushing plus 10. Dustin took Harlem, and Harlem won 196.95 fantasy points to 118.95. So this was a pretty convincing win as Diaz, you took the Hamilton. And true, he went from having the Hamilton to getting Hamilton, where we got a chain going now. You had Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams on that Thursday night game where they just exploded, combining for about 60 points. Mason Rudolph also had 25 fantasy points. I was not aware of that. And then Leonard Fournette with 27.5, running really well against the Denver Broncos. And then Flushing, they had Kyler Murray with 23.5, Cortland Sutton with 20.7, Deshaun Watson really failing there, 16.7. Really, that was it for him. So Harlem, Diaz, how'd you feel about your win?
I mean, my team revolves around the Green Bay Packers, and losing Devontae Adams this week, there'll be a little bit less investment there. But yeah, Aaron Rodgers started the season playing poorly, and so did my team. Aaron Rodgers had a great game, and so did my team. If Aaron Rodgers is the player that he has been in the past, and there are understandably questions about that, then I believe this team can compete. If he is a low-end QB1 or a QB high-end QB2, then I don't have a lot of optimism about this team. I was really encouraged by what I saw from Chase Daniel and Allen Robinson. I think Allen Robinson is still an incredibly talented wide receiver who's fully recovered from his injury.
Yeah.
And, the owner, I will admit that his accuracy is not very good. But if someone can actually hit Allen Robinson in stride, this guy can do a lot. And Chase Daniel is no great shakes, but I
think Chase Daniel presents an upgrade for Allen Robinson just because he's more consistently accurate, and he gets the ball to where he can make a play on it more consistently. Trubisky has a stronger arm and stuff, but there's something to be said for just knowing that the ball is going to be catchable for you as a receiver. So I think that helps Allen Robinson out. With regard to Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams, this is the kind of wins that Harlem will get. It has to be with Green Bay playing so well, because Rodgers goes to Devontae Adams so much. But they did also just play Philly, and Philly has maybe the worst secondary in the league. So right now, Rodgers has done really well against a team that he should do really well against, and mediocre against slightly tougher teams. So I don't think we could draw too many conclusions yet. I would have to see him do pretty well against an above average passing defense for me to really buy into this team. But I mean, this is the type of matchup that Harlem wanted when they drafted their team. The stack is crushing. They put up 40 points, 60 points just between the two of them. So I'm just reiterating what Diaz said, but it really does depend a lot on Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, and I forgot to mention that the New England Patriots defense exists on Harlem, which is amazing.
New England Patriots defense is maybe the MVP of the league now.
It probably
is. And their schedule is still soft for at least 4 more weeks, I think. So
I think it alone is the reason that Harlem can win any game, any week with playing anyone. So I think he's a scary team to face, regardless of any of the skill position players.
Sure.
Travis Kelce didn't really show up that much, but I think he'll have better days. And then one last thing is Duo was saying that we're shitting on your keeper, probably Devontae Adams. I don't know who your keeper. Oh no, Mitch Trubisky. Sorry. Never mind. I don't have any response to that.
Apologies to Mitch Trubisky.
Yeah, it's Trubisky. I thought it was Adams for a second. I forgot. It just wasn't on the screen. Just before we move on to Flushing, you guys both started 0-2, right? And then now you're 2-2, both of you guys. So
I started 1-1.
Sorry, okay, but you guys are now both 2-2, and it looked bleak. Even though it was 1-1, it did kind of look bleakish. Maybe I don't know if that's how you felt.
Oh, for sure. Well, you asked me was in panic mode last week.
Last week we were 1-2. Yeah.
Right. Both 1 and 2. So how are you guys feeling now? Does it feel like it's like a restart for you guys, a reset button as we head into week 5? That doesn't matter. Yeah.
Definitely for me, yeah. Like 2-2, it just feels like you're not chasing like 500 anymore. Like so. It's a point where you think you can build and like really break into the playoff discussion. Whereas when you're like 1-2 or 0-2 or below 500, you're just like, man, even if I win this week, I'm only gonna be 500 or below that. So like being 2-2 is definitely, I think, encouraging, but you still have to win a lot more games to get in there. So it does give you a little optimism, but it's not something that I'm like just too happy about, really.
Yeah.
It's great. It's always good to have the wins, especially the win that I stole from Ken on the back of the Patriots defense.
It's huge.
But it's clear that my team at least is still a tier behind Capital Region and Mars, and quite frankly, probably Yonkers when they're healthy or even a little bit more healthy. I'm grateful that I have already played Yonkers and Capital Region once each, and so hopefully I can sneak into the playoffs or add a piece or find something somewhere that will kind of push this team a little bit closer to that tier, and behind the tier of your team, of course, Wonky, which is perhaps the best in the league.
Thank you. It's just within your division, I'm sure you were thinking. So it's all good. Let's move to Flushing. So, I mean, he was a week away from having the Hamilton. So obviously his team can put up a lot of points. But just some disappointing performances from Adam Thielen with only, 2 catches, 6 yards? I mean, that's... And then Nelson Aguilar with just 1 target, giving the donut. It's unfortunate. And also a lot of his... star players didn't really show up. Deshaun Watson is the clear culprit here, and then Mark Ingram, he came away with only eight fantasy points. So a lot of, and Keenan Allen, sorry, 6.3. So it's just a couple disappointing performances all happening at once. It seems like.
Mark Ingram's first 3 weeks were at Miami, at home against Arizona, and at Kansas City. So I'm not sure that he's going to see a slate that anywhere near that attractive at any point again this season.
Wow, yeah, there's a theme with you, Diaz, and also Lamar also had that same schedule too.
Yeah.
Dustin, what are your thoughts?
I mean, Deshaun Watson really is a problem right now. Like, he's so inconsistent. Week 1, he put up 38 points. Week 2, he put up 14 points. Week 3, he put up 35, and then back down to 17. Like, it's really hard to win in this league when your QB is putting up 14, just because like you need that to be like steadily above like 20, especially considering the type of player Deshaun Watson is regarded as.
Right.
Obviously there are other problems on this team, but yeah, I mean, like the Thielen stuff is pretty concerning. Mark Ingram probably isn't going to see this like as good of a slate as he did in the early season, so he probably needs, Cortland Sutton to like maintain a breakout, and all his other pieces to like get back to what they were. But they are a better team than this score and their record. I think it's just Deshaun Watson just really has to show up a lot more.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. They're 1-3 now, right? That's crazy to me.
Yeah.
Especially when you consider the stack of keepers that he had coming into the season. It's crazy. But yeah, there's a couple arrows pointing up, pointing down. Peyton Barber looking like he may be taking the backseat there. We're not sure, but it could be possible. And then also same thing with Nelson Aguilar, right? They're kind of fading. But then Sterling Shepard, it's yet to be seen with Golden Tate coming back. And then Noah Fant, he showed up. Maybe he's going to be a new star tight end for Flushing, who always seems to be getting those star tight ends. Any thoughts about Kyler Murray? Anyone?
No, not really. I mean, he is pretty much what I expected. Like, there's a lot of volume there. He doesn't play perfectly, and sometimes but I mean, he's been really consistent, and over 20 something points a week for a QB that he got for however cheap in the draft.
16.
Yeah, that's fine. So Kyler Murray is doing his job and more maybe, but he's just quietly going about his business. So I think that's been a good pick for him so far.
Yeah, Duho notes that Damian Williams is coming back potentially this week, of course, against Duho. With that, we'll move on to Capital Region hosting Mars, and this was one of the marquee matchups of the week. Where I gave Capital Region -3, and Dustin took Capital Region, but Mars came out victorious with 176.08 to 136.94. Capital Region had some disappointments from Patrick Mahomes. Only scoring 25. Only scoring 25. And Dak really disappointed with 13.65. Delaney Walker didn't show up. Really, the only guy who did show up was Mike Evans with 16.65. On the other side, though, Mars had a lot of people showing up. James Conner with 22.5. Austin Eckler still doing his thing with 27.7. Wentz and Russell Wilson, they're combining for 45 points. So a lot of things going right for Mars, not so many for Capital. What do you guys think about this big matchup?
I'm going to steal Diaz's point, and I just want to point out Dak Prescott, his first 3 weeks. New York Giants.
Here we go again.
At Washington and Miami. And Dak Prescott looked, like a breakout player. And people were saying, oh, wow, is Dak a top 5 quarterback now? Blah, blah, blah. But this week against a competent defense, he fell flat on his face.
Mm-hmm.
He did not have Gallup, so there are other circumstances that could explain it. But maybe we have to pump the brakes on Dak Prescott. Maybe he's somewhere in between what he was in the first 3 weeks and week 4, and I think that changes Capital Region from a super juggernaut looking team to maybe one of the top teams, but attainable again if Dak is, a high-end QB2 or something like that.
Yeah, they lost Tyron Smith, too, in that game, so that's going to be an issue, potentially. Diaz, what do you think about Capital Region?
Why do they need Dak when they have Jameis Winston, who scored 39.1 points?
I guess that is true. That is true. Yeah, go on.
Ken has the unenviable position of now having 2 quarterbacks who are neither one of them is necessarily a layup, and he has to decide which matchup he wants to play week to week.
Right.
Smart money is always that Jameis Winston will disappoint you. I think a lot of owners in this league have learned that lesson the hard way.
If you play Jameis, he'll put up 14 points and get replaced by his backup. And if you don't play him, he'll put up 39 points. That's basically Jameis Winston in a nutshell.
The thing is, what we've both talked about is there are matchups in this league now that are so obviously unmissable that you can start anyone. You start backup running backs against Miami, Washington, the Giants, Arizona. But I believe that still, if you start Jameis Winston against those teams, and actually he played the Giants, and I think he played fairly well. But all I remember is that O.J. Howard didn't do anything because O.J. Howard's a bum. But,
circles back to him.
It's going to be difficult, and it's almost the same situation with his receivers as well, where he kind of has this wealth, but Sammy Watkins is inconsistency, and Sammy Watkins may not be worthwhile all that much longer, anyways, because Kansas City is getting Tyreek Hill back.
Yeah, I think he could still be useful, but we have yet to see exactly what his usage will be with Tyreek Hill there. Only for a little bit. The
challenge is he'll be useful. At the end of the year, he'll have points, but you won't know when to start him.
Yeah, that's true. And there is a little bit of a concern with Christian Kirk and his injury, and also the role of Miles Sanders going forward. So you mentioned this in your Power Rankings article, the running back 2 spot for this team. Who is it going to be? And currently it's been no one, but hopefully they can find an answer.
So Christian Kirk is old news. The Keyshawn Johnson era has begun in Arizona. So Get your popcorn ready.
Oh yeah, I love Keyshawn Johnson too, but you have him now. Is that right? Okay.
Yeah, the one waiver claim I was able to successfully do. Yeah.
Yeah, he's quite good. Yeah, if we have,
I will say, DeAndre Hopkins will, or I believe he
yeah,
will turn it around, right? But that's really probably one of the bigger reasons that this team is underperforming. Because I mean, Mike Evans and DeAndre Hopkins should be carrying you to win some weeks, and just Hopkins hasn't really got it going.
right. And instead, it's
Um,
Galladay who's showing up, and Mike Evans is acting like he's the wide receiver too in Tampa Bay.
right. I am a little worried though, like because I think all of us agreed that this Capital Region team was either the best or the second best coming into the season.
Correct.
But the running backs are still shaky. He has a lot of backup handcuff running backs that if one of them come through, then he's definitely very set at that spot. But as of now, all of his bench options need an injury in front of them to become relevant. And his wide receivers are good, but if Hopkins isn't dominating, then it's just good and not great. And Mahomes is obviously Mahomes, but then if Dak and Jameis become a headache to pick the right guy between, this team is showing a lot more cracks than I thought they would coming into the season. I still do think they're one of the top teams, but definitely a little bit worrisome because they're 2-2, and
True.
there are points on the parts of their team that I'm not completely sold on anymore.
All very true. There's not much worry going on though for Mars, as they are 4-0. And this was a pretty convincing win, I thought, as they, again, another test between two really good teams, or we think really good teams, and Mars was the victor. They on the flip side of Capital Region, they have a lot of really good running backs: James Conner, Austin Eckler, Melvin Gordon coming back, and Aaron Jones, and then depending on how you view Jalen Samuels and his new shiny two-year deal. Yeah, he's got a lot of running backs, so there's a lot of things that Mars is looking great at.
Yeah, this was a statement win for them. They had a pretty awful season last year, and starting out 3-0 is good, but people were like, okay, what happens when you play a really good team? And they showed up and then they won. But I guess the only thing is if the Eckler Melvin Gordon situation, I think is potentially very important for this team. If that situation takes 3 or 4 weeks for him to figure out, let's say he plays Eckler this week, and then Melvin Gordon gets the touchdowns, and then he plays Melvin Gordon next week, and they're still easing him in, and they don't give him as many carries. It could trip him up a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, there's enough on this team, I think, that he can be looking pretty comfortably ahead to making a good playoff run, I think.
Yep, Diaz.
Yeah, I mean, Mars scored 176 points with no wide receiver scoring more than 7. Odell Beckham still hasn't. And I looked at his schedule, and I'm not tremendously excited about it in the short term, but I think that because he didn't really have an off season, he didn't I believe he didn't play a lot or play at all in the preseason with Field. And so I think it might be a situation where those two still need to gel, but when they do, I think that this team can withstand, a Austin Eckler, make strong start situation, or a Larry Fitzgerald second half drop off, or even a Russell Wilson, return to form where the sell high window may be closing on Russell Wilson. But I think that this team can actually stand that because there are still pieces that haven't lived up to the hype.
Yeah, I mean, we have to also mention the Bears' defense is on this team, so they're gonna get a baseline of 20 or something from that defense every week. Again, making them a scary draw for whatever team that faces them. And then the QBs, they didn't show up with 30 this week, but Russell Wilson has been looking really good. Carson Wentz also, I mean, he's doing very well, and I think in terms of fantasy. Let me check. Yeah, he's doing consistent. So that's all you want really from your QB2. So yeah, with that and the 3 running backs that he will have to pick and choose every week, yeah, he's definitely afforded the time to figure out if OBJ shows up or Amari Cooper will show up, but you'll never know when. And Larry will give you around 7 to 12 points per week. So, any thoughts about Austin Hooper? I remember John was commenting about him on the Discord channel.
I'm not buying Austin Hooper personally, but
Oh, okay.
I don't know. Personally, I just have never been too impressed with him. But I mean, the Falcons are throwing a ton this year, and he's getting more targets than Ridley. So
Yeah, the targets.
maybe it's for real, but I am still skeptical.
I mean, Austin Hooper is not going to end up as a top 5 tight end, but considering some of the other contenders or other teams in the league and their tight end situation, I would buy Austin Hooper to the extent of like you can plug and play with this guy.
Yeah, very true.
Sure. With that, let's go to our last matchup, Yonkers versus LIC. So I gave Yonkers -5. Dustin took LIC, and that was the result. With LIC getting 148.57 to Yonkers 135.36. So LIC with their first win of the year. Nick Chubb, oh my God, he was a beast. 38.55 fantasy points. Jared Goff looked less of a beast, but he still had 34.05 fantasy points. Amazing that he won, even with Case Keenum with 0.2 and Jacksonville defense going negative, but still had contributions from other people. Jarvis Landry with almost 20 fantasy points. That was pretty big for him as well. Yonkers, not too much coming from his QBs. Tom Brady, only 5 fantasy points. A.J. Brown looked good against the really bad Falcons defense, 22.9. Robert Woods came back to life with 22.1. And Daniel Jones, not terrible. I think really the story for Yonkers was that he had -16 from his Baltimore defense that he just picked up. Thoughts on the LIC win, guys? Let's start with Diaz.
So for Jared Goff and all the Rams last week,
Yeah.
you have to consider their stats as if they played 2 games because he threw 68 passes, meaning he basically played 2 games. And so I will say on this podcast that it was a mistake for me to trade Jared Goff away last year. But this is some level of indication because he actually is not good.
Yeah. No, you were right. You were right in that he is not that talented of a quarterback, and you were just wrong on how much Sean McVay could mask those deficiencies.
Correct.
You're absolutely right. Yes,
Correct.
I had no idea, and I think none of us really knew much Sean McVay would do. But yeah, Jared Goff is not good, and
four
What,
turnovers.
they may regret giving him a 3-year contract, but certainly not as much as the Rams regret giving him however long the contract they just gave him. That's let Sean McVay pick a rookie every 5 years or 4 years and do that. Don't sign
from a real life perspective. I feel like the Rams should have known better than anyone that Goff is a product of Sean McVay, and if he's asking for that kind of contract, just be like, all right, you can walk and go somewhere else. You're not going to get the same kind of numbers. And if he does walk, then they probably do just as well with a decent, even if you have to spend a 1st-round pick on a quarterback that McVay likes, you could definitely replace him a lot easier than what they paid for him. So yeah, in real life, that's a big mistake for I think the Rams franchise.
Yeah, I will defend Jared Goff a little bit. I think we are saying that he's terrible. He has looked pretty bad, but one of the things that I noticed with the Rams is that their offensive line has really struggled this year, which has been very alarming for them, I think, just from the way that their offense works. And they're really still struggling with how to solve their run game versus that New England Patriots formula against them.
Yeah.
So they really need to figure out, and I think that also goes back to Sean McVay. He's got to figure out what the appropriate counters are with the talent that he has right now. Especially, again, his offensive line isn't doing Jared Goff any favors. So, yeah, we'll see how that develops. I guess we'll have a look in about 30 minutes to what Sean McVay will cook up. But yeah, it's been up and down with Goff, and we'll see the trajectory. Nick Chubb, though, my God, that was incredible with his performance. And this, again, LIC didn't have that much coming from a whole bunch of other players, and maybe that speaks to the level of competition against Yonkers. But in any case, this was pretty fortunate for him.
Yeah, LIC still has a lot of stink on their players. It was really three players that really hard carried their team, like Goff, Chubb, and Landry, with Chubb being the hardest carrier. But I mean, a win is a win, right?
Yes,
so
yes.
1-3, it keeps them alive. They can still be, looking to, make moves this year. And in free agency this week, they were really aggressive. So, we'll see if the aggression pays off. But Warren's a good manager, so that you can't count him out just because he started 1-3. That one win last week gives him enough life where you have to worry about facing him week in and week out.
Absolutely. One thing I do want to mention is that he would have had one more performer for him if he had started the Jordan Howard Thursday night with 30 plus fantasy points. He went off as well. So maybe there is hope in that he's got a couple quote unquote star performances remaining. Diaz, last remaining thoughts on the LSC before we move to Yonkers?
No, I have nothing to say about Jordan Howard.
Yeah, with Yonkers, they were unlucky to get the Baltimore defense at the time that they did. I believe they dropped the Bills defense too to get that, which was an unfortunate turn of events for him, because that also hurt his Tom Brady, right? The Bills defense also hurt his Tom Brady. So he went all in on a certain script for what the games would look like on Sunday, and he came out flat on his face. Yeah, what did you think, Dustin?
I mean, the injuries have been pretty brutal to this team.
Yeah, that's the thing.
But I mean, 1-3, it is kind of tough, because he's still dealing with injuries. Like, if LIC is one of the weaker teams in the league, you really want to get those wins against them, just because the schedule is probably going to be tougher otherwise. So it definitely does sting that a defense decision might have cost them the win for this week. It definitely has to sting. But I will say, the guys that they've gotten to replace the injured ones have actually done a pretty good job. It's really not their fault that he's losing. It really came down to defense this week. Daniel Jones looks very promising. That was, a great stash and good job to match the poach. And who else replaced? LaShawn McCoy's done.
Yeah, LaShawn McCoy.
Yeah, Cole Beasley. I mean, they've filled in pretty well. And the good thing is, I think Tyreek Hill, Saquon, and even T.Y. Hilton might be very close to coming back.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So, I mean, you would have really liked it if they were 2-2 right now with the win over LIC. But as soon as these players come back, next week or, very soon, it's going to be, one of the most talented teams on paper again. So I don't think you can really count them out, even if they are 1-3 right now.
Yep, Diaz.
Yeah, it's hard to add anything to that. I mean, speaking of quarterbacks who are a product of a system, Tom Brady. I mean, this guy's obviously washed.
Yeah.
No, it is really bad luck, and I think we may have to face the difficult fact that Baltimore might have a pretty shitty defense.
Yeah.
I am also agreeing with that. Their secondary and their pass rush. Their pass rush against Cleveland was embarrassing, in my opinion. But anyways, let's with that move on to the trades and transactions, the waiver wires. Oh my god, I think I do this every time. All right. Clicking on the wrong thing. Just briefly, Diaz, you were really busy this week with your trades. I mean,
Always.
you don't have to explain them all, but you can just highlight what maybe one or two of them right now in terms of what you were thinking.
I mean, I'm really excited about Philip Dorsett. Obviously, you may know something that I don't, but I was very excited when you approached me about that because his upcoming schedule looks great,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that said about Tom Brady notwithstanding, I think that any given week a Patriots receiver could go off, especially if isn't at 100%.
Yep.
Yeah, Dorsett gets targets like every week, so definitely. I mean, I'm not too excited about him because he's Philip Dorsett, but he's
Any
definitely
guy,
like
come on.
he's definitely a player that's very useful, and I think it'll come really in handy during bye weeks where
Yes.
you have to put in guys that are not as sexy maybe, and Philip Dorsett could go off for 2 touchdowns and 70 yards pretty easily just in that offense. So yeah, I think that was I definitely understood what Harlan got out of that trade.
Yeah, I was just looking to make roster space so I could get Debo on my roster, and Deshaun Jackson I had traded away in that same first non-real but kind of real three-way trade that was done this week. Philip Dorsett, I do like him. I mean, I picked him up for a reason. I thought because of AB's not suspension, but his release, that he would get more opportunities. And even with that, I was thinking maybe it's not as much as I thought. I mean, he's still getting targets. Yes, that's correct. But in terms of the production, it wasn't as big as I was hoping for. They still have Edelman. They still have Josh Gordon. They still have James White. All three, I think, are ahead of him in the chain of the progressions that Tom Brady makes. So yes, I do agree that he's going to be a great bye week fill in, but I had to unfortunately
What I like
unload.
from your perspective is you have Dante Pettis on your team, right?
Correct. Yeah.
I think the go-to receiver in San Francisco. I don't think it's truly emerged yet.
Yep.
It's kind of gone around to a couple different guys, but nothing that you can say like, okay, like this is going to be the first option on this team. And I think you have the two guys that I would bet on, establishing themselves as the guy,
Right.
if anyone does.
Right.
So yeah, I think it's kind of like getting like, two guys in a backfield, and you're just like, all right, one of these guys is gonna be the starter. So, the guy that gets carries. So it's the same concept with
Wide receiver.
receiver. So
Yep.
yeah, so you gave up a like pretty low ceiling player for 2 bites at a potentially high ceiling role in that offense.
Yep. And I don't know what John is thinking, but I can kind of speculate that he's got Carson Wentz.
He wants to stack.
We all know some owners' propensities to the stack. Deshaun Jackson was really good for the first week, right? And I mean,
Yeah.
we've talked about big plays. This guy's all about
Yeah,
those.
I will say the stack is especially worth it when it's a player like Deshaun Jackson that can
Yes.
rip off like a 70-yard touchdown.
Yeah.
And then with Wentz as your quarterback, that's so many points at once. That one play will get you so hyped. So yeah, I guess I kind of get it. Like he probably didn't think he could trust Debo Samuel week to week.
Sure.
I do think Deshaun Jackson is probably more of more of an
Right now,
established
yeah,
player.
yeah.
Yeah. So he's taking the guy that he knows is a very good player in the NFL over the guy that is still a rookie. You don't know what he is. So this is pretty much a trade that I kind of get for everyone. Like it makes a lot of sense for everyone.
Yeah, it's almost like it was a good three-way trade.
Yeah, almost.
Just a couple of, I'll just go through them. If you have comments, you can add on. But Jacksonville defense was moved from LAC to Great Kills for some fab, I believe. I think it was two,
Yeah,
one, I forget.
Just one.
Just one fab.
Yeah.
And then the other trade was Teddy Bridgewater for Rashad Penny. That's between Harlem and Virginia. So Harlem received Penny, Virginia received Teddy Bridgewater. I believe Virginia's looking to just fill in a QB because of their murky situation for this week.
And Harlem has Chris Carson, right?
I do, yeah.
That's
Chris
that makes
Carson with
perfect
the
sense.
fumbles had to be. I mean, he got a ton of work this week, but it had to be a little bit worrying just because if he fumbles like 2 more times in another game, like Pete Carroll can only vouch for him so much. So getting Penny is definitely gonna take that worry off your mind.
Right.
So yeah, that was a good trade. I don't know if Teddy Bridgewater is going to be enough for Virginia because they're going up against Capital Region this week, right?
True.
Don't know if Teddy Bridgewater really moves the needle. Maybe he will. Maybe it'll.
Teddy Bridgewater moves the zucchini. Don't even think you're talking about with this guy.
He moves the eggplant for sure.
Oh man, I just had a random. I mean, yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I like this. I like this trade a lot for Harlem.
Yeah, I think it's pretty good for both sides. You obviously like it, Diaz, no?
Yeah, I mean, bluffing is not one of my strengths, but I'm very proud of myself for playing it cool. I was panicking very much over Chris Carson, fumbling every single game. I'm like, this guy is going to lose his job any day now.
Yeah.
And now I can relax.
Yeah. No.
I have Rashad Penny, and you know what? Rashad Penny could take that job and keep it for several years, and he's a $3 player.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you're not worried about
Teddy Bridgewater is a low price to pay for that ease.
True.
Ease of mind for Diaz. So I like the trade more for Diaz, but I understand why each side did it.
Not worried about Procise? Yeah. We'll I guess we'll see. Yeah. Anyways, we'll move on with just because of our time. But we got 2 poaches as well. I think we should have a name for this segment for the poaches. But anyways, Jalen Samuels given 2 years by Mars with no match. So Mars takes him away.
How close were you to matching, Diaz?
I thought I was missing something. I was like, why?
I was like, why 2 years? Like 1 year probably would have done the job. I don't get like what the urgency of going 2 years was. I mean, I guess he just wanted to make sure that nobody else jumped in, but I mean, it looked like overkill.
So is ease of mind worth it for him with James Conner? I mean, he doesn't have a fumbling issue, but injury issues with James Conner.
True, and James Conner has kind of looked a little sluggish early in the season, so maybe worth it. But I mean, that's a negative asset right now. I think no one's gonna want to trade for it. So if it provides him the ease of mind, that's good. But he's not gonna be able to move it easily. He might just end up taking the cut if he needs the roster spot, or yeah. It was a little funny to me, I thought.
It does guarantee him the Steelers' backfield for a couple of years, but could you imagine it being 2021 and neither Jalen Samuels or James Conner is the starting running back there? That would be funny.
Things have happened in the NFL.
That would be hilarious. So
the Austin Eckler effect. He thinks that backup running backs will just produce.
Could be.
It's true. He's been fooled. Not every backup running back just steps in and performs like Eckler did.
There's 8 touchdowns or whatever Eckler has.
Yeah.
Jeez. And then the Steelers' teammate Deontay Johnson was given a contract by Great Kills. So first it was LIC making the poach, but Great Kills jumped them in priority.
Yeah, and I don't think it's any secret that I'm still looking for a solution at like wide receiver 4 or 3, depending on. Well, I play 2 tight ends, so wide receiver 3.
Mm-hmm.
And out of the options on waivers, I like this a little bit more, and I don't love that there's guaranteed money on it now, but I'm not in a position to really worry about that too much right now. So we decided to match it and see how that goes, because there is a new quarterback, and it does seem like Juju's getting a lot of attention. So there is a little bit of a question of like how that whole passing game shakes out.
Right.
And if he gets consistent targets, maybe I could pencil him in at that wide receiver 3 spot, wide receiver 4 spot. So yeah, I mean, that was the rationale.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what the practice squad is there for. It's for for instances like this where someone's still looking for a back end talent and they poach him off someone else. DS?
And I mean, Ken's team has
a
lot of that kind of guy.
Right.
He probably would have matched if he was like weak on wide receiver, but like he has a bunch of guys that are exactly what Deontay Johnson is. So he didn't match, and he gets a compensation pick out of it. Same for Diaz, which is pretty good for just having picked up Jalen Samuels on like last week or 2 weeks ago. So
Yeah.
Here's a genuine question, actually.
Yeah.
Whose compensation pick comes first?
whoever got the bigger contract. So I think that's yours.
Oh, yay. Great.
You thank John for the two-year poach.
Compensation pick available.
Yeah, the compensation picks, we don't know what their value will be, but it could be pretty useful. You don't know. Someone please poach my stuff. Let's go. Let's go to the claims real quick here. Some aggressive bids from some people who weren't as aggressive from the earlier weeks, right? So LIC 16 for Robbie Anderson, big, and he had to drop the prince that was promised, Corey Davis.
Corey Davis. And then 16 on Geronimo Allison as well from LIC.
Woo! Right, dropping
yeah.
Case Keenum.
Yep, two bids of 16 on wide receivers.
Wow, insane. Any comments about these players, guys?
I mean, he like I said, he got that one win, and now he's trying to consolidate it and win this week too. Because 2 and 3 really does put you back into the conversation, whereas I think 1 and 4 probably just ends your year, pretty much.
Oof.
So he is making kind of a last stand here. 1 and 4 doesn't end your year, but I mean, there's so little hope at that point with so many teams in front of you. Yeah. So he is making his last stand here, or he is making a stand here. I don't know if it's going to be his last one. And I think he really needs to win this week. So he wasn't worried about staving over some fab or not. He is down to 21 fab, by the way. So that is very low.
Impressive. Yeah.
Yep. But yeah, that's a big balls move from someone who showed that he's willing to push in last year. So I wouldn't count him out just yet. Sorry.
Yeah, Diaz.
I may be in the minority, but I think I'd rather have Corey Davis than Robbie Anderson.
I am agreeing, I think, with you. Oh, actually, at the cost of the two, I think I would take Corey Davis at his contract than 16 for Robbie Anderson. But yeah, you have a fair point. I think it's close.
I hate to say this, but I think the most likely scenario for the Jets is they fire their head coach again, and the narrative with Sam Darnold is actually the same narrative as Marcus Mariota with
too
many.
But he had to learn all these different systems.
Oh, that hurts. Yeah. Oh my god.
Yeah. And then injuries derail his progression a little bit. In Darnold's case, it's mono. In Mariota's case, it was
broken bone.
More of a. But,
you can't feel bad for Darnold. It's his own damn fault. He's a fucking idiot.
Sorry. Yeah, man. That's a really nice take. I really like that, Diaz. I'm just gonna move quickly here because we don't have that much time. Virginia with picking up Flacco and dropping Dwayne Haskins. Doesn't this kind of smell like that time when he dropped Mitch Trubisky right before Trubisky popped off?
It does.
I don't know. I'm not sure. I mean, is he giving up too early on Dwayne Haskins?
I think he's just really worried about not having quarterbacks to start.
Yeah, that's true.
But I mean, where is he really going to win against Ken starting Flacco and Bridgewater? I question that. So I mean, yeah, I hope for his sake that Haskins doesn't break out on him, but could happen.
Imagine the story other way around if Ken loses to Flacco and Bridgewater.
Yeah, that could happen too.
Yeah, Diaz, any thoughts?
I mean, we think about the breakout potential for these guys like Dwayne Haskins, but especially at the quarterback position, if you actually look, I mean, you compared him to Mitch Trubisky.
Yeah.
You're better off not keeping Mitch Trubisky. Take it from me.
It's true.
Okay.
True.
When we really do look at the QB position, it's like you may miss out on the breakout, but unless Dwayne Haskins becomes a top 5 guy.
True. That's true.
Yeah.
We'll draft him next year for $10.
Yeah. I don't think Washington also really has the team in place for him to break out this year, so I'm actually not too worried about it from his point of view.
That all sounds good. Yeah, there's Capital Region going for a tight end for Jimmy Graham, so that's just him addressing his roster issue there, and then a couple defenses. LAC I thought that was a really good bid on Buffalo because that beat my bid for by $1.
Yeah, I was in on Buffalo too, so.
Yeah, that was unfortunate, and I didn't want Carolina for 6. I don't know why I had 6 there. I had something else. I
Yeah,
thought.
if you're not gonna get Buffalo, you probably could have gotten Carolina for like 3 or 2 or
I
something
had it
like
at
that.
4. I thought I had it, but I mean I don't know. Whatever, 2 fab, it's fine. But it's just it's annoying when I saw it. And then Flushing also picked up the Eagles defense for 5.
Good matchup.
I think that's it for defenses, and then there were some issues with the practice squad again. I won't mention it too much, or else Wall will tilt. And then lastly, Virginia, they picked up Adrian Peterson.
Yeah, John was trying to trade him like the last like 48 hours, and Hua just waited until he got dropped and probably placed like the only bid, or maybe not the only bid, but probably a lot of teams didn't place a bid on him just because he got dropped so close to
right.
the waiver deadline. So smart by Hua to keep his eye on that. Yeah, having Adrian Peterson for $1 is a pretty good depth move, I think.
Yep.
They're playing Miami in a couple weeks.
That's a good matchup to hold for.
It's a big emphasis on the Miami matchups. The kickers, they're just a couple kickers from a couple teams, and then 2 interesting moves I thought. Great kills, picking up Jamal Williams for 2, and then Yonkers picking up Miles Boykin for 1.
Yeah, I mean Jamal Williams is hurt right now, so I can put him on one of my IR slots.
Oh, it's a stash. Yeah.
Yep, and Aaron Jones seems more talented, but they really don't seem to want to like commit a ton of work to him. So
right.
it's worth a shot, I thought. And Miles Boykin is obviously a player that I had, so that caught my attention. But yeah, I don't know. Like it's hard. Baltimore's passing offense has been a little bit hard for me to like predict just because they started off so hot. There was so much volume to go around, and it's slowly shrinking in terms of passing volume. So we'll see who gets most of the touchdowns, who gets most of the deep shots. Still a little bit to shake out there, I think.
Yeah. Well, my thinking is that is he thinking about next year? Is he already kind of setting himself up for some potential keepers? Is maybe his thoughts. I'm not sure though.
No, it's good. And then I just want to say Harlem took Keyshawn Johnson, right?
Oh, how did I miss that? Where is that? Oh yeah, here it is for 3. Sorry.
Greg Hill's got Auden Tate.
I got to shout you out for Auden Tate because I was in on that. Again, the matchup is great.
Yeah.
And I like that offensive scheme. I think they don't necessarily have the horses right now to do what LA does, but I do like Cincinnati. When the matchup.
Yeah,
right.
I mean Dalton was terrible against the Steelers, but I don't think. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, it's primetime Dalton. I do think that team is bad enough where they'll be playing from behind a fair amount, and I mean Dalton on non-primetime does at least accumulate numbers. So with John Ross injured, I thought Auden Tate would have a chance until AJ Green comes back to contribute, in a pretty decent way. So that was one of the wide receiver pickups we were targeting the most.
Good move. And Keyshawn
Johnson.
Yeah, Diaz.
Similar situation for me, Ross got hurt, so it looks like Tate can get a bigger share of a pretty high volume offense, and Christian Kirk getting hurt in Arizona gives Keyshawn Johnson the chance to step into the secondary target role in a pretty good offense with volume.
I just want to speculate on Arizona. I just want a piece of that and see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Do they face Miami at any time? No, they don't. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I think Keyshawn is. I mean, I obviously had him. I drafted him in the rookie draft. He's back then I was thinking that again I wanted a piece of the Arizona offense as you said, and then he was ahead of the depth chart versus the other 2 guys, Isabella and what's his name, Butler. And so he's showing something, and it's early, so it's good for his career. Yeah, unless I'm missing anything, we can go to the who you got.
Yep.
Quick before the
I set the first line, right?
I think so. You can chip in. Chip in whenever you want. Diaz.
All right. New England minus 10 against Great Kills.
Great kills.
What would the line have to be for you to pick yourself, Wonky?
Yeah.
Uh,
I think he just wouldn't, even if I favored.
well, you
my
always make me favored, don't you?
Well, you are favored.
The league.
You're a great team.
I think if I wasn't favored, then maybe I would.
Okay.
I'm sorry if I'm annoying anyone.
No, it's fine.
Let's see. Let's go with Yonkers plus 15.
Yonkers plus 15. I'll take Yonkers.
Whew, that would be spicy.
Yeah, 4-0 versus 1-3 banged up team. I'm taking the underdog at home. Home underdogs.
Nice, nice.
Okay. How about Capital Region minus 15 against Virginia?
I'm doing it. I think I'm doing it. I think I'm gonna go Virginia.
Uh,
I mean, could you just imagine though if Virginia 4-1 and Capital Region was 2-3? Oh my God, the tilt.
2-3 is very tilt,
The
especially
tilt from Ken.
with the expectations everyone had for Capital Region. That'd be very worrying.
What's the game script that would result in a Hua victory? What do we need to happen?
A lot of fluke stuff. A lot of touchdowns to Will Fuller, Chris Godwin.
Bridgewater throws 4 touchdowns, none of them to Alvin Kamara.
Right. A lot of that, Dalvin Cook just destroying something like a Chubb output. Maybe Daniel Jones destroys the Vikings defense, something like that, along those lines.
I think what really has to happen is Marquise Brown and DK Metcalf.
Right.
Like the guys that can give you 0 or like 20.
Yeah.
I think both of them have to give you like 15 or 20, right?
Yes, I agree. Let's go, Hollywood.
And I think an underrated part of this would be the Giants offense really putting up points on Minnesota. If they could get Minnesota defense into the low negatives, I think that would be a huge shift for Virginia as well. So I could see it happen. Those two things are probably the things that have to happen the most, but I could see it happening. So yeah, not too crazy.
Yeah, we'll have Ken next week, so maybe he'll chew me out on that. I'm setting the line. Yeah, so let's go with let's go Harlem minus 10.
Harlem minus 10
against LIC.
Ooh. I'll take LIC. Sorry, Diaz.
Yeah. No, this is like a Bears-Packers situation. Like, they
yeah,
have a better team, but
the 10 was actually a little bit too much. If you said like minus 5, I would have gone with Harlem.
Ah, dang. Okay. Well, we'll see.
And then the last one is Oakland versus Flushing, right?
Yep, that's a close one.
Man,
that's a close one.
Yeah, both these teams are kind of.
I can't make them out.
I'll just say even. Pick them. Flushing versus Oakland, pick them.
Even is still hard. This is really hard.
Yeah. Oakland gets the 3 home field, but I do think like Flushing might be a little bit better, but like it's not by a lot either way. This is really a coin flip, I think.
I'm gonna go Flushing. I'm gonna go with the bounce back for his players. I think he got a little unlucky. I mean, I'm not saying that Oakland is gonna be bad.
Deshaun Watson is due for a good one.
Yeah.
He's at home against Atlanta.
Right.
Oh, okay. He's in for a huge one. He also does alternate from like 35 to like 14 points, and he's in line for at least 35. So I would say that you made the right choice there.
We'll see. So with that, as I mentioned, next week we're going to have Ken. It's gonna be on Friday, so keep that in mind, guys. A little bit of schedule change, but That's what it's going to be for next week, and I think we're good. Don't forget your picks and pick 'em, because I always forget to do that.
Wonky, you should just set it like right now.
I did it. I said it already. When I said it earlier, I
okay.
did it. And yeah, with that, no other things, guys. We're good.
No, always a pleasure to have Diaz on the show.
Thanks, guys.
All right, cool. See you guys.
Yep, bye.